You can look through Firebase's documentation and learn how to use their API. I suggested that we use Rebase. So Rebase is a library specifically for syncing React state with Firebase. Firebase has nothing to do with React. You can use it in any kind of application. But Rebase is just a thing that makes it super, super easy to use Firebase with React. So let's add it. Yarn add read-base. And let's see. Plenty of examples. So here's the API, overview, sync state, two-way data binding between any property on your component state and any endpoint in Firebase. So two-way data binding, what's that mean? Anybody used anything with two-way data binding before? The original AngularJS, for example, had two-way binding. Later versions of Angular do not. So what that means is change it one place, it changes the other. But you can change it either place, and it will flow in either direction. So if we make a change in our app, it'll update Firebase. If we make a change in Firebase, it'll update our app. So they'll stay in sync without us having to go to much trouble at all. So that's pretty cool. So create class, you pass it a Firebase database. It accepts an initialized database object. We're going to have to do something like that. Right. We're only using the Firebase database component, so we could maybe do it this way. So we're going to need to import Rebase, looks like. Import capital R Rebase from re-base. Okay, require Firebase. Importing Firebase from Firebase. Well, we're already kind of starting to do it this way. We can just do it this way. We initialize the app, and then we do Rebase create class with app.database. Okay. So initialize app, here it is. Save that to a variable called app, cool. By the way, var, no. No. So let's do const app equals Firebase initialize app config. Then we'll do Rebase create class app.database. And to use this from our actual app, we're probably going to need to export something. So this is our Rebase class, so that's probably what we want to export. So export default rebase.create class. Cool. So maybe in main, we import that. The import base from base. /base, sorry. Then what? Well, sync state's the thing we want to use. Allows you to set up two-way data binding between your component state and your Firebase. Whenever your Firebase changes, your component state will change and vice versa. So sync state's what we want. So this seems like maybe we need this to happen in component will mount instead. So component will mount right now, we're loading them from local storage. So instead of that, we could call base.syncState. So base is our rebase class that we initialized here. We exported it as the default. So we can import it here. It's called base.syncState. The first argument is an endpoint, the relative Firebase endpoint to which you'd like to bind your component state. Oh. What does that mean? So the database here, this is not a relational database. This is like a document database like Mongo. Anybody ever use MongoDB? Nobody? It's kind of like JSON. It has a very JSON-like structure. So an endpoint is just, you can just think of it as a key within this database, basically. So it's just a string, let's just say notes, for lack of anything better. Why not? Notes. Okay, the second argument is options. Options. Okay. Options is an object with various keys. Context is required. The context of your component. Okay, so my second argument is an object. Context. The context of your component. It just means this. It just means your current component. Basically, it's going to sync state, so it needs to know what object state is on. That's all you're telling it. Which object is state on? This, in this case. What else? Okay, state required. The state property you want to sync with Firebase. So which state property do we want to sync? Notes. So state colon the string notes. Seems legit. What else is there? Default value. If you want a value other than an empty object or empty array is fine. As array, Boolean, optional, returns the Firebase data at the specified endpoint as an array instead of an object. So it's going to give us an object by default. That might not work because our data is an array, right? Let's see what happens so far if we just leave it at this. Okay, I'm getting basically that Firebase doesn't exist. So when you run yarn add, you usually have to kill your server and run it again. Not necessarily going to pick it up. Okay, so it loaded there and then it exploded, said notes.map is not a function. Because notes.map needs an array, right? And Firebase is giving us an object. So we better say as array true. Did you do that, those of you who made this work? Is that what you did? Yeah. Let's save that. Okay, it doesn't explode. That's good. Now it's complaining at us. Looks like you're using the development build of the Firebase JS SDK. When deploying, it's advisable to only import the individual SDK components you intend to use. Okay. So here's what that means. Don't import all of Firebase. Just import like Firebase/app. If you're going to use the database, which we are, just import Firebase/database. Since those are the only components we're using, we don't need the rest of it. Gets rid of the warning, but it should still work. So let's see. Tonight's plans. Gonna see that Solo movie, y'all. Hence the t-shirt. Yep. All right. Let's look at Firebase. That wasn't there before. Look at that. What? Yeah, check it out. What if we... Okay, what if we refresh the page? Still there. Oh, okay. How about this? We said two-way binding, right? Okay. What if I change it here? Tonight's plans. Let's change that to my plans for tonight. Yeah. Now we're cussing. Good stuff. It's like cheating. Come on. That's too easy. I'm going to get rid of my other local storage thing. Component did update. You were fun while you lasted. All right. We got a database app, backed app now. How about that? Questions? Yep. Sync notes with Firebase. So in the morning class, I actually told them not to commit base.js and to make a separate second file called base.example.js with your API key and stuff stripped out. Now, that's going to break as soon as you try to deploy to GitHub pages. And we need security another way. So I just went ahead and committed it this time. It's not that big a deal. But you might not actually want to commit this in a public forum. But when you deploy it, you're going to have that. And the fact is, that file that is going to get loaded to the browser anyway. So if it's a huge secret, you're in trouble. But Firebase, you'll lock it down to a specific domain anyway. So even if someone gets your API key, they can't use it. So it's not a super, super secret.